Did you know that you are inside a dream? Did you know that? This world is a dream. This is the dream of consciousness, and we have entered inside of someone's dream. Yes, we are inside someone's dream. This is a dream world, and this is the reason why we have to sleep and dream to be in this world. This is a world built on duality, where the self is in unawareness of itself and the light is obscure. Yes, the light is turned off and the self sleeps. And guess what? Did you know that yourself is sleeping and has been sleeping away for all these ages? Yourself has been sleeping obscure behind the mind. Yes, the self is behind the mind sleeping and the mind is here. And guess what? Because the self did not awake to take control of the body, the ego rises from the mind and has taken precedent over the sleeping self. And this is the reason why you have to self-inquire to come to self-realization. You have to wake up from the dream to experience the real. Because the self is sleeping, so you're not experiencing the real. You are experiencing the world in a dream, in unconsciousness. Yes, and this is why your soul is the observer, because it's not supposed to interfere. It has to wake. It has been waiting for the self to rise up, unification with it. Yes, so you have to wake up the sleeping self, right? So consciousness is sleeping and dreaming up this world. Consciousness is the intelligence of the world, but consciousness is an ignorance of the self. And this is a major problem because of duality. Just like we have intelligence of the world and we know a lot of things about the world. But intelligence of the self, nobody knows it. It's been hidden from us. And here I am. I have unraveled the mystery, the secret. And I tell you the truth and I tell you the real. But because people have been in the ignorance and the illusion for such a long time, they're having a hard time believing what I am saying. But what I'm saying to you is the real and is the truth. And the only way that you're going to fully understand it is if you return the ego. You must wake up the sleeping self. When you return the ego, this is when you will know, you will finally wake up from the dream and come into the real. You have to return the ego because this is a duality existence, right? This is a duality existence. This world is the dream of consciousness. Consciousness is dreaming of this world. We have entered into someone's dream. Isn't this wild? Look at the world. We're actually in someone's dream. And we're actually in someone's body. Do you remember when we were a baby in our mother's womb? That fetus? We were inside the body? Yes, this world is a body. This is one of the great supreme being called Anum Ra. And that's the body of Supreme Self, Supreme Ra. And consciousness is the mind of Supreme Self, Supreme Ra, and she is dreaming up the world. She's managing the world. Supreme Self, Supreme Ra is dreaming up the world. She's managing the world. She's sleeping, waking, and dreaming. She has awareness where she is building this world. Yes, and Supreme Self, Supreme Ra is a self-replica of the primal light. Yes, so all of this is the doing of the primal light. She has fractalized herself in all these myriads of forms, and because of duality, the forms do not recognize her. Yes, we do not recognize ourselves, we do not know ourselves because of the duality. And because we're inside of the dream, that's the effect of the dream. It creates the illusion and it's a false sense of being. So when you're in a dream, you have to turn your light off. And so the Supreme Self has turned her light off to be the body of the world. The body of the earth is Geb or Gaia, and the light has been turned off. But of course, now that the world is coming to an end, the Supreme Self, their lights have turned on. Anamra, her light has turned on, and her light was the moon. Same thing with the earth. All right. So the self enter into the world sleeping, and the self, which is our self, is in the body. We have two selves in the body, and it's split into duality. One self is awake and one self is sleeping, obscure behind the mind, and is not in awareness of itself. So that is what duality does. Duality makes you not aware of yourself, and this is why the world is the way it is and the beings are the way they are. And so because the self is sleeping, do you know what happened? The ego arises. The ego arises from the mind and has taken precedent over the self. And all this time we've been living, not the self has not been in awareness. It's only the ego. It's the false self. And the ego has taken on a false self-identification. And the ego thinks that it is a body, it is the mind, it is this human being. No, we are the self that creates the human being. Right? And so the whole idea is that we have to wake the sleeping self up. You have to wake up the sleeping self so that the mind can go and looking for the self. We have to self-inquire. We have to wake up ourselves because the ego has been the one that has been taking precedent over the self, and now we have to wake up the self so it can, because it wrote out a destiny of what it wanted to do when it come into the duality, because the duality is a consequence of separating from the self. When you separate from yourself and you separate from your light, you go into a dream and into a sleep, and you go into unawareness where you do not know yourself. And so this is what has happened in the world. And this is how the duality was created. And I want to talk now about the duality, right? So what is duality?